The granite block weighs 70 tons, sits at 12,000 feet altitude in the Peruvian Andes, temperature 38 degrees Fahrenheit, air so thin your lungs burn with every breath. The block has cuts, precise, machine perfect. Edges meet at exactly 90 degrees, surface polished smooth as glass. Problem: the people who supposedly carved this block, the Inca, didn't have iron tools, didn't have the wheel, didn't have written language, but they cut granite like butter. And here's what they don't tell you in school. This block, this impossible 70-ton piece of stone, it's not unique. There are hundreds just like it, thousands, scattered across every continent, cut with the same impossible precision. Someone built all this. Someone who knew things we're only rediscovering now. And then they vanished. Not slowly, not gradually, just gone, like they never existed. Look, the official story is simple. Humans crawled out of caves 12,000 years ago.
Invented agriculture, built mud huts, learned to write. Slowly, painfully, over thousands of years, we climbed from stone tools to smartphones. Linear progress, one direction, always upward. Except the evidence doesn't match the story. In 1899, divers found a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera. Inside a wooden box, corroded bronze gears, 30 interlocking cocks, differential gearing, epicyclic gearing. The Antikythera mechanism. Scientists spent 100 years trying to understand it. X-ray analysis revealed inscriptions, mathematical calculations, astronomical data. It's a computer, mechanical, analog, predicts eclipses, tracks planetary movements, calculates the Olympic Games cycle. Built around 80 BC. Next comparable technology, 1400 years later. 14 centuries of technological darkness. And then suddenly, pocket watches in medieval Europe. How do you lose that knowledge? How does civilization forget how to build machines that complex? Unless they didn't forget. Unless it got erased. So here's what I want you to think about. Drop your theory in the comments right now. Before we go deeper, if advanced civilizations existed before us, what destroyed them? War? Disease? Natural disaster? Or something else? Something we're not being told. Because the same patterns keep appearing. Advanced knowledge, impossible construction, and then silence. Like someone hit the delete button on history. Your turn. What's your theory? Comments below. Let's see who's paying attention. The mainstream narrative goes like this. Sumerians invented writing around 3300 BC. Egyptians built the pyramids around 2600 BC. Everything before that? Primitive hunter-gatherers, cavemen, simple tools, simple lives. But that timeline has cracks. Big ones. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, discovered in 1994. Massive stone pillars arranged in circles. Each pillar weighs up to 20 tons. Decorated with intricate carvings. Foxes, scorpions, vultures, abstract symbols. Radiocarbon dating puts it at 9,600 BC. That's 11,600 years ago. 6,000 years before Stonehenge. 7,000 years before the pyramids. 8,000 years before the Sumerians supposedly invented civilization. These weren't cavemen. These were architects, engineers, artists. They organized labor, quarried stone, transported it miles,
carved it with precision, erected monuments that still stand today. And then they buried it, deliberately, carefully, filled the entire site with debris, covered it up like they wanted it hidden. Why? Why would a civilization build something that magnificent and then bury it? The official explanation? Religious site, ritual purposes. They buried it when they were done with it. Sounds reasonable. Except it doesn't explain the knowledge.
The Sumerians knew things they shouldn't have known. They had star charts, accurate ones. They mapped constellations, tracked planetary orbits, described the solar system with details we didn't confirm until we had telescopes. They knew Uranus existed. We didn't discover Uranus until 1781, with a telescope. How did the Sumerians know about a planet invisible to the naked eye 4,000 years before we had the technology to see it? The Dogon tribe in Mali, West Africa, studied by French anthropologists in the 1930s. The Dogon had detailed knowledge of the Sirius star system. They knew Sirius had a companion star, Sirius B. They described its orbit, its density. They said it was made of the heaviest matter in the universe. They were right. Sirius B is a white dwarf, incredibly dense. A teaspoon weighs several tons. We discovered it in 1862 with advanced telescopes. The Dogon knew about it centuries earlier. Passed down through oral tradition. They said beings from Sirius taught them, sky people, the Nomo. Mainstream archaeology says they heard about it from Western missionaries, cross-cultural contamination. But the Dogon described details missionaries wouldn't have known. Orbital periods, elliptical paths, the 50-year cycle. Where did that knowledge come from? And it's not just astronomy. The Baghdad Battery, found in 1936, clay jar, copper cylinder, iron rod, asphalt seal. Archaeologists tested it, filled it with vinegar or wine. It generated voltage, 1 to 2 volts. An ancient battery from 250 BC. We didn't invent the battery until Alessandro Volta in 1800, 1,500 years later. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis, shows the coastline of Antarctica. Accurate detail. Mountains, rivers. Problem: Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820. And it's been under ice for thousands of years. The map shows Antarctica without ice. Geological surveys confirm you'd need to see Antarctica before the ice sheets formed. That means 12,000 years ago, minimum. How did a 1513 map show a coastline buried under ice for 12,000 years? Piri Reis said he compiled it from older maps, much older. Maps from the Library of Alexandria, maps from before the Ice Age, maps from a civilization we don't acknowledge existed. So we've got 5 open questions now, 5 threads we're going to follow. 1. Who built structures we can barely replicate with modern technology? 2. Where did ancient astronomical knowledge come from when they had no telescopes? 3. Why does advanced technology appear and then vanish for thousands of years? 4. What happened to the civilizations that possessed this knowledge? 5. Who decided this evidence shouldn't be taught in schools? Hold those questions. We're going to answer them, one by one. But first, we need to talk about the holes in the official timeline, the gaps they don't explain. The Great Pyramid of Giza, 2.3 million stone blocks, average weight 2.5 tons. Some blocks weigh 70 tons. transported from quarries 500 miles away. Built in 20 years, according to mainstream Egyptology. That's during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, around 2560 BC. Let's do the math. 2.3 million blocks, 20 years. That's 115,000 blocks per year. 315 blocks per day. Every single day. No breaks, no holidays. Assuming a 12-hour workday, that's 26 blocks per hour. 1 block every 2 minutes. For 20 years straight. You'd need to quarry the stone, shape it, transport it, lift it, position it, with copper tools and wooden rollers. 1 block every 2 minutes. And that's just logistics. That's not counting the precision.
The pyramid is aligned to true north within 1/15 of a degree. The sides are equal within 2 inches over 750 feet. The base is level within 1 inch, with copper tools, in 20 years. Engineers today say we couldn't do it, not with those constraints, not with that precision, not without modern equipment. But somebody did it. And mainstream archaeology says it was slaves, thousands of slaves, rolling stones up ramps. Except, no archaeological evidence of ramps large enough. No evidence of the massive labor camps needed to house 100,000 workers. No evidence of the food supply chains required to feed them. Just the pyramid. Perfect, precise, impossible. And it's not just Egypt. Baalbek in Lebanon, the Temple of Jupiter. Foundation made of stones called the Trilithon. 3 blocks, each weighs 800 tons. 800 tons. That's 1.6 million pounds per block. Lifted, positioned, placed with millimeter precision. At a height of 20 feet. The largest crane in the world today, the Typhoon crane, can lift 20,000 tons. But it's stationary, requires a massive steel frame, needs a prepared surface. The Romans built Baalbek around 2,000 years ago. They had wood, rope, muscle. How do you lift 800 tons with rope? And beneath the Roman temple, older blocks, much older, cut and fitted with even greater precision. The Romans built on top of someone else's work. They said so themselves, said the stones were already there, placed by giants in the time before the flood. Before the flood. That phrase appears everywhere, in every ancient culture. Sumerians, Egyptians, Greeks, Hebrews, Mayans, Chinese, Aboriginal Australians. They all describe a great flood, a catastrophe, a time when the world ended and began again. And before the flood, they describe advanced beings, gods, teachers, giants, beings who knew things, who built things, who taught humans civilization.
And then, the flood came, and they disappeared.
So let's talk about what the geological record shows. Around 12,800 years ago, something happened. The Younger Dryas Impact Event. Evidence of massive cosmic impacts, multiple impacts, across North America, Europe, Asia. Iridium layer in the soil, shocked quartz, microscopic diamonds, nanodiamonds, carbon spherules, all indicators of high-energy impacts. Temperature dropped, suddenly, dramatically. Ice Age conditions returned, lasted for 1,300 years. Megafauna went extinct. Mammoths, saber-toothed cats, giant sloths, woolly rhinoceros. 75% of large mammals in North America, gone. The impact theory was proposed in 2007. Mainstream geology resisted, called it fringe science, conspiracy theory. But evidence kept piling up. Impact craters found beneath Greenland ice sheet. Hiawatha crater, discovered in 2015, over 19 miles wide. Dating?
12,800 years ago. The evidence was there, but it took decades for mainstream science to acknowledge it. Why the resistance? Why the delay? Because accepting the impact means accepting the timeline is wrong. Means accepting that advanced human civilization could have existed before the impact and been wiped out, reset to zero. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. The impact wasn't the first reset. Geological evidence shows multiple extinction events, multiple catastrophes, cycles of destruction and rebuilding. The Toba supervolcano eruption, 74,000 years ago, erupted in Indonesia, ejected 700 cubic miles of material. Ash covered the planet. Temperature dropped. Volcanic winter lasted 6 to 10 years. Human population bottleneck. Genetic evidence shows human diversity crashed, down to maybe 10,000 individuals, maybe fewer. We almost went extinct. And before Toba, other events, other catastrophes. The Permian extinction. 252 million years ago. 96% of marine species died. 70% of terrestrial vertebrates. The Great Dying. The Cretaceous extinction, 66 million years ago. Asteroid impact. Dinosaurs gone. But those are millions of years ago, before humans. What about more recent cycles? What about cycles within human history? Here's where mainstream science stops talking. Here's where the evidence gets buried. Because if you look at the patterns, civilization doesn't progress linearly. It rises, it falls, it rises again. And each time it falls, knowledge gets lost. The Library of Alexandria, burned. Hundreds of thousands of scrolls, ancient knowledge, maps, star charts, scientific texts, engineering manuals, gone. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad, 13th century, Mongol invasion, scholars killed, books thrown in the Tigris River. The river ran black with ink for 6 months. Gone. The Maya built vast cities, pyramids, developed advanced mathematics. Invented zero independently. Created accurate calendars. Tracked Venus with precision. Then, collapse. 9th century AD. Cities abandoned, population scattered, knowledge fragmented. Why? The official explanation? Drought, deforestation, political instability. But the Maya themselves left records, stone carvings. They said the gods left, the sky beings. And without them, civilization couldn't continue. What if they weren't speaking metaphorically? Now, here's a name you need to remember. Professor Charles Hapgood, geography professor, Harvard graduate, Keene State College, 1950s and 60s. Hapgood studied ancient maps, the Piri-Reis map, the Orontius-Phineus map from 1531, the Philippe Wache map from 1737. All showed Antarctica, without ice, with accurate coastlines. Hapgood proposed a theory, Earth crust displacement. The crust of the Earth, the lithosphere, could shift rapidly, catastrophically, over the molten interior. Pole shift. Antarctica wasn't always at the South Pole. It was temperate, inhabited, mapped. Then the crust shifted. Antarctica moved to the pole, froze over, within decades. The civilization there, wiped out, frozen, buried under miles of ice. Hapgood published his theory in 1958. Earth's shifting crust. Albert Einstein wrote the foreword. Einstein endorsed it, said the data was compelling, said it deserved serious scientific consideration. Then Einstein died, 1955, before publication. And mainstream geology buried Hapgood's work, called it pseudoscience, dismissed it without proper review. Hapgood's research vanished from academic discourse. His books went out of print. But his data remained. Maps that shouldn't exist, showing coastlines that shouldn't be visible. Hapgood died in 1982. Car accident. Single vehicle collision. No witnesses. He was driving home from a research trip. He'd been investigating new evidence, planning a follow-up book, had compiled data on ancient construction techniques, anomalous artifacts. His files, scattered after his death. Some donated to Yale, some lost, some purchased by private collectors. His most recent research notes? Never found. And here's the thing about Hapgood's maps. They're not originals. They're copies, compiled from older sources. Piri Reis said so explicitly. Said he used 20 source maps. Some dated back to the time of Alexander the Great, 4th century BC. Some older, much older. Maps from before the ice, before the flood, before recorded history. Maps from the previous civilization. So now we're in Antarctica, modern day. Let's get specific. Let's talk about what's been found, what's been hidden. Operation High Jump, 1946 to 1947. U.S. Navy expedition, led by Admiral Richard Byrd. 13 ships, 33 aircraft, 4,700 personnel. Official mission? Establish research base.
Test equipment in polar conditions. But here's what doesn't add up. Why send a military force that size for a research mission? In peacetime? 1 year after World War II ended? Operation High Jump was equipped for combat, included an aircraft carrier, submarines, destroyers, marines. They planned to stay 6 months. They came back in 6 weeks. Early termination. Casualties reported, but details classified. Admiral Byrd gave one interview after returning, March 1947, Chilean newspaper El Mercurio. He said, and this is a direct quote translated from Spanish, "The United States should prepare defenses against enemy aircraft that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds." Enemy aircraft at the South Pole in 1947. Who was he talking about? The interview transcript was buried. Byrd was debriefed by intelligence, never spoke publicly about Antarctica again. He led one more expedition, Operation Deep Freeze. 1955 to 1956, even larger force. Byrd died in 1957, heart failure. His expedition logs from Operation High Jump, classified, still classified, 75 years later. What did Byrd find in Antarctica? The official line? Nothing. Ice and penguins. But satellite imaging from the 1990s onward showed anomalies, magnetic anomalies, beneath the ice. Geometric patterns, structures. Lake Vostok, subglacial lake, buried under 2 miles of ice. Liquid water, size of Lake Ontario, isolated for 15 million years, or so they say. Russian scientists drilled down, reached the lake in 2012, took samples, found something. What exactly? The data's classified. The Russians stopped talking. International observers removed from the site. But thermal imaging shows heat signatures coming from beneath the ice, concentrated areas Regular patterns, not natural geothermal activity. Too regular, too organized. Something's down there.
Something that generates heat. Something built. And now we need to talk about a document. A specific document that almost nobody knows exists. National Security Agency Technical Paper, 1956. Classified, top secret. Declassified partially in 2000, under Freedom of Information Act. The paper's title? Ancient Structures and Advanced Technology in Polar Regions. 16 pages, 12 pages heavily redacted, black bars covering entire paragraphs, only fragments visible. What's visible? References to pre-ice architecture, non-terrestrial construction methods, energy signatures inconsistent with natural formation. One sentence survives intact, page 11. Evidence suggests technological civilization predating known human history by minimum 40,000 years. Stop recommend immediate classification and restricted access. Stop. 40,000 years. That's 30,000 years before the Younger Dryas impact. 38,000 years before the pyramids. 37,000 years before Göbekli Tepe. A civilization that advanced, that technological, that long ago. And then, gone. Reset. Buried under ice and time. We're not the first. We're not even close to the first. The document lists 3 researchers by name: Dr. William Foster, Professor Margaret Chen, Dr. Robert Ashford. All 3 died within 18 months of the report's publication. Foster, car accident, head-on collision, 1957. Chen, house fire, electrical fault, 1958. Ashford, heart attack, supposedly, 1958, age 42, no prior cardiac history. Their research? Archived, then moved, then lost. Current location unknown. Yale Library shows catalog entries. The files existed, box numbers, archive codes, but the actual boxes? Empty, or missing entirely. Someone cleaned up. Someone didn't want this information spreading. And that's when you start to wonder. How much more is out there? How much more got buried? How much more are we not supposed to know? Because if there's one document, there are others. If 3 researchers died, there are others. If one civilization got erased, there are others. And here's the object, the one physical thing we need to talk about, the one artifact that changes everything. The Dropa stones. 1938. Chinese archaeologist Chi Pu-te led expedition into Bayan Har Mountains, remote region, Tibetan border. Discovered cave system. 716 caves, interconnected. Inside the caves, skeletons, small humanoid figures, 4 feet tall, elongated skulls, thin bones, different from modern humans, different from Homo erectus, different from anything in the fossil record. And on the cave walls, stone discs, 716 discs, each disc 12 inches diameter, center hole, spiral groove carved from center to edge, like a phonograph record, made of granite, hard granite. But carved with precision, microscopic groove, filled with unknown substance, dark material. Chi Pu-te brought the discs back to Beijing Academy, stored, studied, then hidden. Professor Tsum Nui, 1962, deciphered the grooves, said they were writing, pictographic script, told a story. The story said the discs belonged to the Dropa,
sky people. Came from the stars 12,000 years ago, crashed in the mountains, couldn't leave, integrated with local tribes. The Academy rejected the translation, called it fantasy, forced Tsum Umnui to recant. He refused. He left China, went to Japan, died in 1965. Liver failure, age 41. The discs disappeared from the Academy. Some say destroyed. Some say moved to secret facility. But photographs exist, taken in the 1960s, before the discs vanished. The images show the grooves, the inscriptions. And in 1994, scientists in Austria tested fragments.
One disc fragment survived in private collection. Microscopic analysis showed the grooves contained traces of cobalt and other metals, high concentration. The granite was tested, high electrical conductivity. Granite shouldn't conduct electricity, but these discs do. When exposed to high voltage, they vibrate, they hum, at a specific frequency, like they were designed to do something, like they were technology disguised as stone. And that's where we stop, right there, on the edge of the impossible. Because if the Dropa stones are real, if they're technology, if they're 12,000 years old, then everything changes. Every assumption about human history, every textbook, every museum display, every comfortable narrative about our linear progress, all wrong. We're not the pioneers. We're not the first to reach for the stars. We're not the builders of the first civilization. We're the 9th, maybe the 10th, maybe more. And someone, some group, some organization doesn't want you to know that. The discs disappeared. The researchers died. The documents got classified. But why? What's the threat? What's so dangerous about knowing the truth? That's what we're going to find out. So why hide it? Why suppress evidence of previous civilizations? What's the actual threat? Think about it. If the public knew, really knew, that advanced societies rose and fell before us, that they had technology, that they got wiped out, reset to zero, what does that do to the stability of modern civilization? It means we're not special. We're not the pinnacle. We're not safe. It means this could happen again, to us, tomorrow, next year, next century. And nobody in power wants people thinking that way. Can't have the masses questioning whether our current path leads somewhere permanent or somewhere temporary. But let's get concrete. Let's talk about who's doing the suppressing and how. 1973. Dr. Virginia Steen McIntyre, U.S. Geological Survey, geologist, sent to Mexico to date an archaeological site, Hueyatlaco, Valsequillo Basin. The site had human artifacts, tools, weapons, campsites, clearly human activity. Steen McIntyre used 4 different dating methods: uranium series dating, fission track dating, tetrahydration, mineral weathering analysis. All 4 methods agreed, within margin of error. The site was 250,000 years old. Problem. Mainstream archaeology says humans arrived in the Americas 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, across the Bering Land Bridge, during the last ice age. 250,000 years? That's 235,000 years too early. And it's not just timing. Anatomically modern humans, Homo sapiens, supposedly didn't exist until 300,000 years ago, in Africa. So how did human tools get to Mexico 250,000 years ago? Steen McIntyre submitted her findings. Peer review. Standard scientific process. Her paper was rejected. Not because the methodology was wrong, not because the data was flawed, because the date was impossible. That's the actual word used, impossible. She was told to redate the site, to use methods that would give the correct age, 12,000 years. She refused. Her funding was cut. Her position terminated. Blacklisted from academic journals. Career destroyed. She's still alive, still maintains her findings were accurate, still says the site is 250,000 years old. But nobody will publish her work. Nobody will touch it. The Hueyatlaco site? Quietly removed from official archaeological databases, no longer mentioned in textbooks. Memory hold. And that's the pattern, over and over. Find evidence that contradicts the timeline, get shut down. Dr. Sylvia Gonzalez, Liverpool John Moores University, 2003. Found human footprints in volcanic ash. Cerro Toluquilla, Mexico. Dated the ash.
40,000 years old. Human footprints. In the Americas. 40,000 years ago. Her findings? Disputed. Methods questioned. Funding pulled. Tom DeMere, San Diego Natural History Museum, 2017. Found mastodon bones with clear signs of human modification. Fracture patterns. Stone tools nearby. California site. Dated 130,000 years old. 130,000 years. Before modern humans supposedly left Africa. Published in Nature, major scientific journal. Still got attacked. Called misinterpretation. Called natural breakage. The evidence keeps surfacing, and it keeps getting buried. Not with violence, not with threats, with funding, with career pressure, with peer review gatekeeping. Much cleaner, much harder to prove. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the cover-up becomes impossible to maintain. Because technology's changing. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, LIDAR, light detection and ranging.
You can't hide structures anymore, not like you used to. Guatemala, 2018. LIDAR survey of the jungle. Routine archaeological mapping. They found 60,000 structures. Mayan pyramids, palaces, fortifications, roads, irrigation systems, hidden under jungle canopy, invisible from the ground, never documented. Population estimates? Revised upward, way upward. 15 million people at peak, maybe 20 million. The Maya weren't a small civilization. They were massive, sophisticated, organized. And they collapsed. 9th century AD. Within 100 years, gone. Cities abandoned, populations scattered. Why? New LIDAR data shows something they didn't expect. The cities weren't just abandoned. They were systematically dismantled. Buildings taken apart, stone by stone. Roads covered, reservoirs filled in. Like someone was erasing them. Deliberately. Egypt, 2023. Ground-penetrating radar survey of the Giza Plateau. Conducted by Ain Shams University and Higashi Nippon International University. They found voids, chambers, beneath the Sphinx, beneath the Valley Temple, extending deep underground. Not natural caves, rectangular, precise walls, organized layout. The Egyptian government stopped the survey immediately. No explanation given. Equipment confiscated. Data classified. Project leader, Dr. Sami Mahmoud, gave one interview. Said they found evidence of construction predating the 4th dynasty by thousands of years.
Then he stopped talking, completely, removed from the project, reassigned. The voids are still there, still unexplored, still off limits. But independent researchers got copies of the preliminary scans before they were classified. The voids form a pattern, geometric, symmetrical, extends over 300 feet down, and the construction technique different from anything in known Egyptian architecture. Different material signatures on the radar, denser, more uniform.
Older construction, much older. The pyramids built on top of something else, something from before. Antarctica again. We need to come back here, because this is where everything converges. 2020, NASA thermal satellite data, released publicly, then partially retracted. The data showed massive heat signatures beneath the ice. West Antarctica, Wilkes Land region. Not geothermal. Pattern too regular. Heat sources arranged in grid formation, 50 miles across. The retraction said the data was misinterpreted, sensor malfunction, atmospheric interference. But the raw data's still accessible, if you know where to look. And that grid pattern, it matches something. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, Angkor Wat in Cambodia, Giza in Egypt, Teotihuacan in Mexico. They're all positioned at specific latitudes, specific geometries, form a pattern across the globe. And the Antarctic grid fits the same pattern, same mathematical relationship, same proportions. Like they're all part of one system.
One global network, built by the same civilization, or connected civilizations, working together, before the ice, before the flood, before the reset. Now we need to talk about the number, the actual count, because this isn't speculation anymore. This is data. Geological strata, ice cores, sediment layers. The Earth goes through cycles, 26,000-year cycles. Precession of the equinoxes, the wobble of Earth's axis. Each cycle brings climate changes, ice ages, warming periods, sea level changes, and each cycle, evidence of human activity. Then silence. Then activity again. Ice core data from Greenland goes back 120,000 years, shows 8 distinct warm periods, interglacials. Each warm period lasts 10 to 15,000 years. Climate stable, ocean levels stable. Perfect conditions for civilization. Then, rapid cooling. Ice age returns. Sea levels drop. Climate chaos. And in the sediment layers from each warm period, traces. Carbon deposits indicating large-scale burning, agriculture, deforestation, smelting, human activity. Every single warm period, 8 cycles, 8 opportunities for civilization to rise. But mainstream science says humans only developed civilization in the current cycle, the last 12,000 years. What about the previous 7 warm periods? Empty. Nothing. Despite perfect conditions. Despite 70,000 years of opportunity. That's not plausible. Dr. Robert Schoch, Boston University, geologist. Shockwaves through Egyptology in the 90s. Examined the Sphinx, water erosion patterns, vertical fissures, chemical weathering, caused by rainfall, heavy rainfall, consistent patterns over thousands of years. But Egypt's been dry for 5,000 years, since the Old Kingdom. The last time Egypt had that kind of rainfall? 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. End of the last ice age. Schoch's conclusion: The Sphinx is at least 9,000 years old, maybe older.
Egyptologists attacked him viciously, said he didn't understand archaeology, said geologists should stay in their lane. But they couldn't refute the erosion patterns. They couldn't explain the weathering, so they ignored it, moved on, pretended the evidence didn't exist. And here's the thing. If the Sphinx is 9,000 years old, who built it? The ancient Egyptians themselves said they didn't, said it was there when they arrived, said the gods built it, in the time of the first time. Zep Tepi, the first time, before the flood, before the current age. They were describing a previous civilization, previous builders. We just didn't listen. And now, the big reveal, the midpoint, the thing that changes everything. Graham Hancock, journalist, researcher, published Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995, proposed a global civilization existed before recorded history. Mainstream academics destroyed him, called him a pseudoscientist, charlatan, conspiracy theorist.
But his data came from real archaeologists, real geologists, real researchers who'd been silenced. He compiled it, connected it, showed the pattern. And here's what the pattern shows. At least 8 previous civilizations, 8 cycles, each lasting 10 to 15,000 years, each reaching different levels of advancement, some more technological, some less, but all complex, all organized, all destroyed. The evidence is there, in every continent, in geological records, in genetic bottlenecks, in myths and legends, in impossible structures. We're not the first. We're not even close. We're number 9. And each previous civilization thought they were the first too, thought they were special, thought they were permanent, until they weren't. So what destroys them? What causes the reset? 3 theories. Let's go through them. Theory 1. Cosmic impacts. Asteroids, comets. The Younger Dryas event proves it's happened before, can happen again. We're in a debris field. The Taurid meteor stream. Earth passes through it twice a year, June and November. Most of the debris burns up, small fragments, shooting stars. But larger objects exist in the stream. Dark, hard to detect. We don't see them until they're close. The Tunguska event, 1908, Siberia. Object exploded in the atmosphere, flattened 800 square miles of forest, thousands of reindeer killed. Shockwave detected worldwide. If it had hit 6 hours later, Moscow, million dead. History changed. We got lucky. Next pass through the Taurid stream, 2030, 2031. NASA tracks known objects, but they admit they only see about 30% of near-Earth objects. The rest? Too dark, too small, moving too fast. One of those could hit tomorrow. We wouldn't see it coming. Reset. Theory 2. Solar events. Micronova. The sun's not as stable as we think. Ben Davidson, Suspicious Observers, independent researcher, compiled data from NASA, NOAA. Geological surveys. The sun goes through cycles. 11-year sunspot cycle. Everyone knows that one. But there's a longer cycle, 12,000 years. Major electromagnetic event, solar outburst, coronal mass ejection, but massive. 1,000 times larger than anything we've recorded. Evidence in ice cores, beryllium-10 spikes, carbon-14 anomalies, occur every 12,000 years, like clockwork. The last spike? 12,800 years ago, Younger Dryas. Next one? We're overdue. Could be tomorrow, could be a century, but it's coming. What happens when it hits? Electromagnetic pulse, global, wipes out all electronics, power grids, communications, satellites. Civilization collapses in hours, and the radiation strips the atmosphere, kills surface life, boils oceans. Survivors go underground, start over, forget what came before, reset. Theory 3. Pole shift. The magnetic poles move, we know that. North magnetic pole drifting towards Siberia, accelerating.
Moving 34 miles per year. Used to be 6 miles per year. Something's changing. But the theory goes deeper. Not just magnetic poles, physical poles. The crust of the Earth shifts over the mantle rapidly. Charles Hapgood proposed it. Einstein endorsed it. Mainstream science buried it. But the evidence is there. Mammoth remains in Siberia, frozen mid-meal, tropical vegetation in their stomachs, frozen so fast their flesh is still edible. How do you freeze a mammoth instantly in Siberia? Pole shift. Siberia used to be temperate. Then the crust shifted, moved Siberia to the polar region. Within days, maybe hours, temperature dropped 100 degrees in minutes. Flash freeze. Antarctica was temperate. Then it wasn't. The maps prove it. Coastlines drawn when Antarctica was ice-free. When does the next shift happen? The magnetic field is weakening, 30% weaker than 150 years ago. South Atlantic anomaly growing. Satellites failing over that region. The field's collapsing. When it collapses completely, shift, reset. And here's the terrifying part. All three theories might be connected. Cosmic impact weakens the crust, triggers volcanic activity, destabilizes the mantle. Solar micronova hits, electromagnetic pulse, heats the atmosphere, boils the oceans. Steam pressure builds, crust shifts, poles relocate, continents rearrange. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, all at once. Happened before. The geological record shows it. Multiple catastrophes clustered together. 12,000 years ago, 24,000, 36,000, like clockwork. We're at 12,000 years since the last one. We're in the window. And somebody knows this. Somebody's preparing. Svalbard Global Seed Vault, Norway, built in 2008, stores seeds from every crop species on Earth, deep underground, permafrost region, designed to survive any catastrophe. Why build that? Why spend $100 million on a seed vault? Official reason? Backup for crop diversity, in case of agricultural disaster. But it's built to survive a nuclear war, an asteroid impact, a pole shift. It's built for reset. Deep underground military bases, DUMBs, confirmed to exist. Cheyenne Mountain, Raven Rock, Mount Weather. Officially for continuity of government during nuclear war. But they're stocked for decades, self-sufficient, hydroponic farms, water recycling, air filtration, medical facilities. Not designed for a few months underground, designed for years, generations. Like someone knows what's coming. Like someone's been through this before. Like there's institutional memory. Memory from the last reset. Because here's the final piece. The piece they really don't want you to know. Some people survived the last reset. Not many, but some. They went underground. They preserved knowledge. They rebuilt. Slowly, carefully. And they remembered. They wrote it down, encoded it, in myths, in monuments,
in mathematical constants embedded in architecture. The Great Pyramid encodes the speed of light in its dimensions. The circumference relates to Earth's polar radius. The height relates to the distance from Earth to the Sun. That's not coincidence. That's intentional. Message in stone. Knowledge preserved. For who? For us. For the next civilization. For number 9. They knew we'd figure it out eventually. When we got advanced enough. When we had the math, the science, the technology to understand. They left warnings, they left instructions, and we ignored them. Called them primitive, called them superstitious, called their monuments tombs. We're the primitives. We're the ones who forgot. But some didn't forget. Some lineages maintained the knowledge. Secret societies, mystery schools, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, Knights Templar. They preserved fragments of the old knowledge. Architecture, geometry, astronomy. Why the secrecy? Why the initiations? Why the codes? Because the knowledge is dangerous. Not mystical dangerous. Practically dangerous. If everyone knew, if the masses understood that civilization is temporary, that reset is inevitable, that everything we build will be erased, society collapses. Why work? Why build? Why plan for the future? So they kept it hidden, fed it out slowly, to those deemed ready, those who could handle it. And the rest of us, we get the sanitized version. Linear progress, permanent civilization. We're special, we're safe. We're not Antarctica. One more time, because this is where it culminates. The heat signatures, the voids beneath the ice, the structures. They're not empty, they're not abandoned. 2022. Antarctic Treaty Nations held emergency closed session. No media, no observers, no minutes released. 2 weeks later, all civilian research stations evacuated, temporarily, for safety inspections. Inspections took 3 months. Stations reopened, different staff, new protocols, new security measures. What happened during those 3 months? Independent satellite data shows increased air traffic, military aircraft, cargo planes, flying to inland Antarctic bases that officially don't exist. Flight patterns analyzed. They're landing at the heat signature locations, the grid sites. Someone's excavating. Someone's going down there. Someone's accessing what's buried under 2 miles of ice. And they're not telling us. Because what if the structures aren't from a dead civilization? What if they're still functional? What if the knowledge is still there, still accessible? What if the previous civilization didn't completely die? What if some went underground, into the structures, into stasis, waiting? For what? For the next cycle. For the next reset. For the survivors of number 9. To warn them. Or to wake up. Or to make sure the reset happens on schedule. Because here's the darkest theory. The one nobody wants to say out loud. What if the resets aren't natural? What if they're controlled? What if there's a mechanism built into the planet, built into the system by whoever, whatever, created the first civilization? A timer, a safeguard, population control on a geological scale. Let civilization rise, let it advance, let it reach a certain threshold, then reset. Prevents any one civilization from getting too powerful, too advanced, too dangerous.
To who? To what? And if that's true, if someone's controlling the resets, then they're still here, still active, still watching. The Antarctic bases, the underground facilities, the seed vaults, the military preparations. Not for a natural disaster, for the activation, for the mechanism, for the thing that's about to wipe us out and start civilization number 10. And the people in charge, the ones with clearance, the ones accessing the Antarctic structures, they know. They've known. And they're not trying to stop it. They're trying to survive it. To be the seed, the remnant, the lineage that carries knowledge into the next cycle. Everyone else, everyone not underground when it starts. We're the reset. We're the cleansing. We're the population that gets erased so the next one can begin. The time is running. The signs are accelerating. Magnetic field weakening, climate instability, seismic activity increasing, volcanic eruptions intensifying. The windows open. And in Antarctica, right now, someone's accessing the control mechanism, the structures under the ice, the technology from civilization number 8, or 7, or 1, the reset button. And the question isn't if they'll press it. The question is, have they already? So let's answer the questions. The 5 threads we opened at the beginning. Time to close the loops. Question 1. Who built the impossible structures? Not one civilization, multiple civilizations, across 8 previous cycles, each learning, each building, each trying to leave evidence for the next.
The precision isn't magic, it's knowledge. Understanding of physics, mathematics, material science, acoustics. They knew how to cut stone with sound, frequency resonance, make granite vibrate at its molecular frequency. It becomes soft, workable, like clay. Then you shape it, let the frequency stop, the stone hardens again, holds the shape. Perfect cuts, perfect angles. We're rediscovering this now. Acoustic levitation, ultrasonic cutting. We call it cutting-edge technology. It's not new. It's remembered. The ancients, Civilization 6, Civilization 4, maybe even Civilization 2, they had this. They built with it. They encoded the knowledge in the structures themselves, the resonance chambers in the Great Pyramid, not tombs, harmonic generators. The king's chamber vibrates at specific frequencies. The granite resonates. The whole structure hums. It's a machine, not a tomb. A machine we don't know how to turn on anymore. But the instructions are there, in the ratios, the dimensions, the mathematical relationships, waiting for us to understand. Question 2. Where did the astronomical knowledge come from? They watched for thousands of years. Civilizations don't collapse overnight. They decline, slowly, over centuries. And during the decline, what do? You're a scientist, an astronomer. You know your civilization is dying. You know the reset is coming. You watch the stars. You record everything. You calculate. You build models. You pass it down. Because the stars don't reset. The planets keep moving. The cycles continue. The only constant. So you encode it, in mythology, in architecture, in oral traditions. The Dogon knew about Sirius B because someone told them. Survivors from Civilization 8 or 7. Knowledge passed down through generations. Degraded, mythologized, but accurate. The Sumerians knew about the outer planets because they had telescopes, or something better, technology we lost. They watched the sky for centuries,
mapping it, recorded it. Then the reset came. The technology was destroyed, but the records survived. Carved in stone, pressed in clay tablets, preserved. We found them. We just didn't believe them. Thought they were mythology. Thought they were making it up. They weren't. Question 3. Why does technology appear and then vanish? Because knowledge is fragile. Technology requires infrastructure, supply chains, specialized labor, educational systems. When the reset happens, infrastructure collapses, supply chains break, specialists die, books burn, hard drives corrupt. You can't maintain advanced technology during a catastrophe. You survive, you find food, you find shelter, you protect your family. The microchips in your phone require billion-dollar fabrication plants, require refined materials, require stable power grids, require global logistics. Gone. The knowledge exists in someone's mind, in some book somewhere, but you can't use it, can't apply it, can't rebuild it. So you start over. Stone tools, fire, agriculture. Slowly, painfully, over thousands of years, you rebuild. And maybe, if you're lucky, you find an artifact, a piece of the old technology. The Antikythera mechanism, the Baghdad battery, the Dropa stones. You don't understand it, but you recognize it's special. You preserve it. You study it. You try to reverse engineer it. Sometimes you succeed. Sometimes you don't. That's why technology appears in bursts. Someone found something. Someone figured out a fragment of the old knowledge. Then it gets lost again. Burned, buried, classified. The cycle continues. Question 4. What happened to the civilizations that possessed this knowledge? They died. All of them. Every single one. Not from war, not from disease, not from slow decline. From the reset. Sudden, catastrophic, global. The geological record shows it. Iridium layers, ash deposits, extinction events, tsunami deposits thousands of feet above current sea level. Flash-frozen mammoths. Violence on a scale we can't imagine. Earth's crust shifting. Continents moving, oceans sloshing, mountains rising, cities buried. In days, maybe hours. Most people die immediately. Earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, atmospheric disruption. The survivors? Scattered, isolated. No communications, no supply lines, no governments. They revert. Tribal groups, hunter-gatherers, struggling to survive. Within a generation, the old knowledge is legends. Within 3 generations, myths. Within 10 generations, forgotten. And the structures, the ones that survive, we find them. We marvel at them. We can't explain them. So we make up stories. Aliens, ancient astronauts, lost Atlantis. The truth is simpler and sadder. They were us, just earlier, just smarter in some ways. And they're dead, all of them. Question 5. Who decided this evidence shouldn't be taught in schools? Not one person, not one organization, not some shadowy cabal in a dark room. It's systemic. It's structural. It's how institutions protect themselves. Academia runs on consensus, peer review, established theory. You don't get funding for crazy ideas. You don't get published if you challenge the paradigm. So researchers self-censor. They soften their conclusions. They bury the anomalies. They focus on safe topics. Not because they're evil, because they have mortgages, families, careers. And the ones who push too hard, who won't back down, who publish the uncomfortable truths, they get sidelined, defunded, discredited. Not through conspiracy, through institutional inertia. The system protects itself, automatically, without anyone giving orders. And at the top, the few people with clearance, with access to classified data, with knowledge of what's really in Antarctica, what's really coming. They don't want panic, don't want chaos, don't want 7 billion people realizing we're on a timer. So they maintain the narrative: linear progress, permanent civilization. Everything's fine. Keep people calm, keep people working, keep people consuming. Until the timer runs out. But here's the thing. Here's the variable they didn't count on. Us. You. Me. Everyone watching this. Everyone digging. Everyone asking questions. We're decentralized. We're networked. We share information faster than they can suppress it. The internet changed everything. For the first time in human history, knowledge can't be fully controlled, can't be fully erased. Sure, they try. Algorithm manipulation, shadow banning, fact-checking, deplatforming. But it spreads anyway. Person to person, platform to platform, country to country. The truth leaks out, in fragments, in pieces, in videos like this. And every person who sees it, every person who understands, becomes a carrier, a preserver, a node in the network. That's new. That's different. That's never happened before in any previous cycle. Maybe that's why we're number 9. Maybe we're the first civilization with a chance to break the cycle. If enough people know. If enough people prepare. If enough people refuse to forget. So let's talk about what we do. Practically. Tangibly. First, preserve the knowledge. Download this video, save it, multiple copies, multiple locations, offline storage. Because it might disappear. YouTube might take it down, servers might fail, internet might go dark. Have it, keep it, share it. Second, look at the evidence yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. The ice core data is public. The satellite images are accessible. The declassified documents exist. Find them, read them, verify them. Be the researcher, be the investigator, be the one who knows. Third, spread it, but carefully. Not with hysteria, not with panic, with facts, with sources, with calm. Show people the Antikythera mechanism. Show them Göbekli Tepe. Show them the erosion patterns on the Sphinx. Ask questions. Let them think. Let them reach their own conclusions. Because the truth doesn't need force. The truth just needs visibility. And fourth, this is the hard one, prepare. Not with bunkers, not with guns, not with paranoia, with community, with skills, with resilience. Learn to grow food, learn to purify water, learn to build shelter, learn to generate power. Not because you're a prepper, not because you're a survivalist, because those are human skills, skills we've outsourced, skills we've forgotten, skills that matter when the reset comes. You don't need millions of dollars. You don't need a compound in the mountains. You need knowledge. You need relationships. You need the ability to help your neighbors when systems fail. That's how you survive.
That's how you preserve. That's how you carry the knowledge forward. Be the seed. Be the remnant. Be civilization number 10. Now, Antarctica, one last time. Because you deserve to know what's really happening. The structures under the ice.
The grid pattern, the heat signatures. They're not dormant. They're active. They're operational. And they're not buildings, not temples, not cities. They're the mechanism, the reset mechanism. A network of devices buried under ice, under oceans, under deserts, all over the planet, all connected, built by Civilization 1 or 0. Whoever started this, whoever seeded Earth with humans. Purpose? Population control, evolutionary pressure, cyclic renewal. Let civilization rise, let it develop, let it advance to a certain point. Then trigger the reset, wipe the slate, start over. Why? Maybe to prevent stagnation, maybe to prevent extinction through war, maybe to keep humanity from becoming too powerful, maybe for reasons we can't comprehend. But the mechanism exists, and it's on a timer. 12,000-year intervals, tied to astronomical cycles, solar cycles, galactic alignment. We're in the window, the trigger window. And the Antarctic bases, the military operations, the classified excavations, they're trying to access it, to understand it, to control it, maybe to stop it, maybe to delay it, maybe to survive it. Or maybe they're trying to trigger it early, on their terms, with their people underground, safe, while the rest of us are on the surface, exposed. Here's what we know for certain, documented, verifiable. Seismic activity is increasing worldwide. Earthquakes up 30% over the last decade. Volcanic eruptions up 40%. The magnetic field is collapsing faster every year. South Atlantic anomaly growing. Satellites failing. Navigation systems glitching. Climate instability accelerating. Not over centuries, over years. Jet streams shifting. Ocean currents changing. Weather patterns breaking down. The signs are there, all the signs. The same signs that appear in the geological record before every previous reset. We're not talking decades, we're talking years. Maybe less. And the people who know, the ones with clearance, they're moving assets, quietly. Seed vaults, underground facilities, Arctic bases. They're preparing, while telling us everything's fine. Keep calm, keep working, keep consuming. Don't look up. But we are looking up. We are paying attention. We are connecting the dots. And here's the beautiful part, the hopeful part, the part that keeps me going. We're more advanced than any previous civilization. More connected, more distributed, more resilient. We have the internet. We have global communication. We have decentralized knowledge storage. We have people on every continent, in every environment, speaking every language with every skill set. If the reset comes, some of us will survive, more than ever before. Scattered, isolated, but alive. And we'll remember, because we documented everything, because we shared everything, because we prepared. We won't be starting from zero. We'll be starting from fragments. From knowledge, from understanding. We might be able to rebuild faster, smarter, better. We might be Civilization 9. But we could be the first Civilization 9 that makes it to Civilization 10 without losing everything. If we choose to. If we act now. If we preserve the knowledge. The Dropa stones. Remember them? The mystery at the end of Part 1. Here's what I didn't tell you. Here's what the classified reports said. The ones from the Chinese Academy before they buried the research. The stones aren't just records. They're not just history. They're instructions. The spiral grooves, the inscriptions, they're a manual, a warning system, a countdown. The Dropa, whoever they were, they came from somewhere else. That part's true. But they didn't crash. They were sent, intentionally, to warn us, to help us, to give us the knowledge we'd need. 12,000 years ago, right after the last reset, when Civilization 8 was rebuilding. They brought technology. They brought astronomy. They brought the truth about the cycles. And they stayed, as long as they could, teaching, helping, recording, until they died, in those caves, in the mountains, isolated, cut off from wherever they came from. The stones are their legacy, their message, their gift. And we buried it, called it fantasy, called it impossible. The stones exist. The fragments were tested. The conductivity is real. The inscriptions are real. We just don't want to believe what they say. Because if we believe them, we have to accept that we're not alone. We've never been alone. We're part of something bigger, something cyclical, something managed. And that terrifies us. More than the reset, more than the catastrophe, more than death. The loss of control. The realization that we're not the masters of our fate. We're participants in a system, in a cycle, in a process that's been running for hundreds of thousands of years. But here's the twist, the final revelation. The thing that changes the equation, the mechanism, the reset device, it's not automatic, it's not unstoppable. It's a test. Each civilization gets the same test. Advance to a certain level, develop the technology, develop the knowledge, develop the understanding. Then find the mechanism. Understand what it is, understand what it does, and make a choice. Trigger it yourself. Reset, start over, maintain the cycle, or deactivate it. Break the cycle. Take control of your own destiny. Every previous civilization failed. All 8. They never found it, never understood it, never made the choice. The timer ran out. The mechanism activated automatically. Reset. But we're different. We found it. We know it's there, under the ice, under the ocean, under the temples. We have a chance. For the first time in 500,000 years, we have a chance to choose. The people in Antarctica, the ones accessing the structures, they're making that choice right now, without asking us, without telling us. Without our consent, they're deciding for all of us, whether to reset, whether to break the cycle, whether humanity continues or restarts. And that's the real crime. Not the cover-up, not the lies, not the suppression of evidence. The theft of choice. The theft of destiny. The theft of our collective future. They're in the control room, their hands on the mechanism, making decisions that affect every human being on Earth, and we're not even in the conversation. So, what do? What can we do? We make noise. We demand transparency. We demand accountability. We demand inclusion. This isn't their choice to make. It's ours. All of ours. Every human being has a stake in this, every culture, every nation, every person. If we're going to reset, we decide together. If we're going to break the cycle, we decide together. If we're going to face what's coming, we face it together. Not as Americans, not as Chinese, not as Europeans or Africans or Asians. As humans. As Civilization 9. As the culmination of 500,000 years of struggle and survival and stubborn refusal to give up. We don't let them decide in secret, in bunkers, in classified meetings. We force it into the open. We force the conversation. We force the truth. And we do it by spreading this information, by sharing this knowledge, by refusing to be silenced. Every person who watches this, every person who understands, every person who refuses to forget, you're part of the network now. You're part of the resistance. You're part of the solution. This video will be attacked. They'll call it misinformation, conspiracy theory, dangerous rhetoric. They'll try to remove it, demonetize it, shadow ban it, bury it in the algorithm. That's how you know it's true. That's how you know you found something they don't want spread. So save it, download it, mirror it, re-upload it, spread it everywhere. Put it on every platform, every server, every hard drive, every USB stick. Make it impossible to erase. Make it impossible to suppress. Make it impossible to ignore. Because this isn't about views. This isn't about subscribers. This isn't about money or fame or ego. This is about survival. This is about truth. This is about the future of our species. And I need your help. We need your help. Humanity needs your help. Look, I know this is heavy. I know this is overwhelming. I know you might be feeling scared right now. That's normal. That's human. That's the appropriate response to understanding the stakes. But don't let fear paralyze you. Let it motivate you. Let it energize you. Let it push you to act. Because we're not helpless. We're not powerless. We're not doomed. We're informed. We're connected. We're prepared. And we have something no previous civilization had. We have the internet. We have global communication. We have the ability to coordinate across all boundaries. If we use it. If we act. If we choose. The reset might be inevitable. The cycles might be real. The mechanism might activate. But we don't have to go into it blind. We don't have to go into it unprepared. We don't have to go into it divided. We can face it together. We can survive it together. We can rebuild together. And when we do, when Civilization 10 emerges from the ashes, it'll be because we chose to preserve the knowledge. We chose to share the truth. We chose to include everyone. That's the legacy we can leave. That's the gift we can give to the future. Not monuments, not technology, not wealth. Truth, knowledge, unity. The things that matter when everything else gets reset. So here's your mission. Here's what I need you to do, right now, before you click away. 1. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Share your theory. Share your evidence. Add to the collective knowledge. 2. Share this video. Not just on YouTube. Everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Discord, Telegram. Wherever you have reach. 3. Do your own research.
Verify what I've said. Find the sources. Read the papers. Look at the evidence. Be the investigator. 4. Prepare. Not with fear, with wisdom. Learn skills, build community, become resilient. 5. Demand transparency. Write to your representatives. Demand declassification. Demand answers about Antarctica. Demand inclusion in the conversation. And 6, most important, refuse to forget. Refuse to be silenced. Refuse to accept the narrative. You know the truth now. You've seen the evidence. You understand the stakes. You can't unknow it. You can't unsee it. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. So carry it forward. Share it. Preserve it. Protect it. Be the node in the network. Be the keeper of knowledge. Be the seed of Civilization 10. Because that's who we are now. That's what we've become by watching this, by understanding this, by accepting this. We're the remnant, the informed, the prepared. We're the ones who refused to look away. They're watching this too. The ones in power, the ones with clearance, the ones in Antarctica. They're seeing how many views this gets, how many shares, how many comments. They're calculating. Can they contain it? Can they suppress it? Can they discredit it? Or is it too late? Has it spread too far? Have too many people seen the truth? That's up to you. That's up to us. That's up to how hard we push this into the light. Make them understand. They don't control the information anymore. They don't control the narrative anymore. They don't control us anymore. We're awake now. We're aware now. We're active now. And we're not going back to sleep. Civilization 9. That's us. That's who we are. That's our designation in the cycle. But we don't have to be just another tick mark, just another failed attempt, just another reset statistic. We can be the one that breaks through, the one that survives, the one that writes its own destiny. Not by fighting the cycle, not by denying the evidence, not by hiding from the truth, by embracing it, by understanding it, by preparing for it, and by making sure, absolutely certain, that when the reset comes, if it comes, when it comes, we don't forget. We don't lose the knowledge. We don't start from 0. We start from 9. We remember 8. We honor the 7 before that. And we build 10 better, smarter, stronger, more resilient. That's the goal. That's the mission. That's why we're here. Why you're watching. Why this information exists. To break the cycle. To preserve the knowledge. To give humanity a fighting chance. The timer's running. The signs are accelerating. The window is open. But we're ready. Or we're getting ready. Or we will be ready. Because we know. Because we understand. Because we refused to look away. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this. Now go. Share this. Spread this. Save this. Make sure the truth survives, no matter what comes next. We are Civilization 9. And we will not be forgotten.